And we are recording. Well, good morning. Happy Monday to everyone again. Thanks for being here. Sorry for the confusion as well. I know I just sent a Zoom link like an hour ago, so I'm really happy that you guys are all on here. But I thought I'd open it up really quick. I think this is a group that we're going to be traveling together virtually for the next 6 weeks. And so I think every week, I think it'd be great to get to know each other a little bit better. I think through discussions, through our ministry engagement, through our learnings in the class, I think the relationships will be richer, but at the same time, so will the learning. So again, I guess I'll go first. So again, I'm Carlos. I'm on the West Coast. I'm in Fresno, California. I don't live necessarily near the beach, or I don't go hiking every weekend like I get from my cross-country friends most. I actually live in like a dust bowl. I live in like a sort of desert valley where they decided to put a city down, more so because of transportation needs. And then it grew into the 5th largest city in the nation. And so I serve at a university. I serve specifically at a seminary. And at the same time, I serve in our church plant. I think one of the things as we engage our community, and I'll be transparent with everyone, as we're starting our church plant, one of the things that we're fighting against is being this post quote unquote evangelical or post Christian, where it's a club for people who are tired of the way church was and they want a new way of doing church. But the reality is the majority of folks don't have that experience in church. They're might encountering God for the first time, or they're having different ways of engaging with God. And so we're looking at different avenues, faith and finances being one of them. And so our church plant is all of 80 members strong right now. I used to attend a church that was 6,000 members large. And so my faith and finance facilitation looks very different these days. But that's kind of my story right now. But if you guys don't mind, how about I just pick you from left to right and just throw in a little tidbit. It doesn't have to be big. It can be small, but would love to know more about you. So Patty, I see you first on my screen here.
Okay, well, this is probably pretty good timing. We're part of our Zoom etiquette. Every time I'm outside on Zoom, my husband starts an engine of some kind. So we're kind of dealing with that. And I can hear him pretty close to the garage. I am in Minnesota and I'm in the Central Time Zone. My only other exposure with Chalmers was to read and thoroughly enjoy the hysterical videos on short-term missions. I've never taken a course through you and I'm excited to do so. I am totally intimidated right now because I think like all the churches in the United States, my church is going through a lot of upheaval. Not upheaval, that's not the right word, but all of a sudden we're having to have conversations about whether we believe in science or whether we don't, and whether we're Republicans or Democrats, and how are we going to maintain fellowship throughout that? And I'm feeling a little bit like a square peg in a round hole. So with that in mind, when I'm being asked to build allies and other people to stand beside me with this program, I'm like, who will still be talking to me in November? You know what I mean? So seriously, I'm in prayer about that. There you have it.
Well, thank you for sharing, Patty. I know that in between, the unknown, we're in a very polarized society these days. And I think, I hear Jesus' words and I can't help but say yes to all of that. You know, I think we're not necessarily, I can't imagine Jesus picking sides, right? But I think to not go too deep into that, I think, you're gonna, as you talk to people, as you build community, I think you're gonna hear God speak to you in different ways.
Yeah, and Carlos, the reason I'm still here is that when I didn't have time to check with Love Inc., who I'm partnering with, before signing up for the class, and I just felt like I should. And when I called the Love Inc. representative in my local community, he said, "Oh, thank you. I've been praying for this so I'm God's in it. I'm just not sure how it's going to work out." It'll work out for his glory.
Well, I look forward to that journey with you, Patty. Thank you.
Thank you.
I see Phyllis and John next, in your most out of world experience there.
Yeah, we're located in Wisconsin, on the western side of the state, and we just celebrated our 50th wedding anniversary this year, so we've had a long time together, and we have 4 daughters and 9 grandchildren. And one of our pastors recently had sent out a note seeking people that might be interested in facilitating this kind of training within our church. And so we expressed our interest and decided to team together in that process. Jody is on the same call, and she's part of our church as well. And to be honest with you, I didn't know Jody was going to be on this call. So, so you can tell we're a little bit disorganized at this moment, but we're excited about the opportunity and hope that we can minister in this way to our local church and community. And maybe Phyllis has a couple things to add. I'm not sure.
Well, we thought we would be good as a team. John's background is business and finance. He ran a branch office for an international company. I've worked with people in poverty and as a teacher and a mom. So we just thought this would be a good team effort for us.
I love it. Well, first of all, congratulations to you guys. That's a wonderful 150 years. And we're really excited. I think don't feel like you're quote unquote disorganized. I think we're learning the process. You know, I had a course this summer where they sent 7 people from a church, and all 7 people didn't necessarily know each other yet. They knew about each other, right? But they were kind of just thrown onto a team, and eventually by the end of it, they figured out, you know, what their roles were, who's going to do what. And so this is part of the process. So feel okay that not everything's figured out yet. But thanks for being here, guys. We're excited to have you guys. And I will say that some of our strongest facilitators here in Fresno are couples. You know, they just have a way to feed off of each other and just do things together, and naturally it just works. And so I pray your guys' experience is similar. So thank you guys. Marcia, I see you on our screen now.
Hey, yeah. Hey, I'm Marcia Trainey. I serve on a staff. I was sharing this a little bit earlier. I'm director of local outreach. I live in Southern California. I'm right in the LA harbor, like my house. When the Mercy ship rolled in, I'm 10 minutes away from that. So I spend my life at the beach. I am wrinkled because of that. You know, I am a sun person. So when Carlos was saying he's in the Dust Bowl, I'm in the midst of all of Southern California. And so, yeah, but our church is a very affluent church. We have, I was sharing earlier, we pre-COVID had about 2,500 people in our church on weekend services. And been doing, I love Chalmers. I love who they are and how they encourage us and take us all in as part of their family. And you guys are going to learn that as you go along. You become part of the Chalmers family as you learn to facilitate and lead in your own communities. And that's what I did. I just, you know, jumped in and got trained. And 10 days later, for me, I knew if I let it go, I was trained in spring. And I thought, if I let this go till fall, I'll never follow through. So 10 days later, I started my first class at church. And it's so grassroots in the beginning. So I just, you know, it's so much fun though. And I just think, yeah, I was thinking about what you were saying, Phyllis, and because of just feeling like disoriented. And it's like, we're just, like Carlos said, we're just learners together. We're doing this together. We're coming in as a cohort that doesn't know each other here, but we'll learn, I mean, just grow together during this next 6 weeks. And also as you're thinking about kind of like that team stuff, I'm so glad we bring this into the training now, because that was something that I didn't know to do in the beginning. It was, so it was just, it's been a process for me, and it's just ongoing. So yeah, I want to encourage you. This is just really fun. I am so looking forward to getting to know all of you through your writings, your responses, questions that you have for us, and and growing with you. So that's me. And I'm single. I've always been single. Had a daughter, she's almost 30. Was a single mom raising her. And so I thank God for my church, because it took a village to help me raise her. And she's amazing. She's a worship leader at her own church today and a teacher. So yeah, it's good stuff. God is good.
Amen. Well, thank you, Marcia. We're glad you have the sun in Southern California, and at the same time, we thank you for your testimony. So thanks for sharing here. Lisa, I see you on our screen here next. All right.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay, I'm you. I'm Lisa Heyer, and probably the minute I start speaking, you'll know I'm from Georgia or close to it. I have, matter of fact, I will give a little background. I run a real estate company, so I'm a real estate broker. Sometimes I may come in, not as likely now as it used to be, in business clothes, but more often you'll see a bike behind me. You'll see me in running clothes. Whatever I do that day is how I'll come to this, because I facilitate sometimes a Run for God event where I help people of all ages learn how to run a 5K. And so I work with that. I lead groups in cycling. I love the outdoors, and in Georgia we can enjoy them a lot of the year. Maybe not like Southern California, but most of the time. And I love the sun too. I did my first faith and facility. I'm actually certified back in 2014. And just to give a little history, our son, I have a husband of 32 years now, and 2 sons and 2 grandsons. So God thinks I need to be with a lot of boys. He's blessed me with all of those. So in 2010, our youngest son at age 15 got caught up in addiction. And we fought addiction for 10 years. And in that 10-year period, and when I got 2010 to 2014, when I got certified, you've got 15 to 18-year-old high school kids that don't know how to budget. They don't know what to do. They struggle in all aspects of life at that stage. And then you add drugs on top of it, and it's disaster. So I'm in a small community, Lafayette, Georgia, and actually went to the Presbyterian. I'm Baptist. All my life I've been Baptist, but went to the Presbyterian church during this time because I had to pull out of what was normal for me and regroup and write and study and all that. Well, in that time, I met Steve Corbett, which is one of the co-authors, went to church with him and his family, so got to know them and what they're about. And that's where I got into this. So I've not done much, when I say publicly, with this program, and I really haven't done anything with it other than I sat with a lot of boys during that time and did special notebooks for them and helped them during that. Now, I am very thankful to say our son is out of addiction, has been saved. We are now 2 years recovered, and he's working, lives in North Carolina, and praise the Lord, he's on the other side of it. Since then, I have written a book. I've now just finished writing my second book, and I've got time now to help our community again. I've spoken at drug courts, different things like that. And if you know anybody in that situation, finances, not knowing how to do finances goes along with doing drugs. And so we've got a huge community here with a lot of drug addiction, meth, opioids, like everywhere in the country. So I hope to be able to fill in some of the gaps along the way, if it's one-on-one or in a church program, or I'll even do it at my office. So that's kind of where I am with recertifying, because, you know, I'm old, I can't remember anything, and I sure don't remember from 2014. That year's are blurs. So I'm here to start over.
Thank you for,
Can
go ahead,
I say
Marcia.
something just
Of
really
course.
quick? Thank you just for sharing about your son and journey. I'm 31 years sober. And I was at the end of my 31st year when God struck me saved and sober at the same time. And it was such a battle. And I think back from my parents in my teen years. And thank God your son was able to get up and out of it so young. And 2 years, one day is amazing. So to have that 2 year, and I think what you want to do in that process with youth and addiction and all, it's so cool. I really look forward to seeing what God's going to do with you in that.
Well,
Yeah.
God did have me do my first in 2018, and I'll tell this real quick, 70.3 Ironman, which I am not that capable of doing. So it was all him, and correlated my training with what my son was going to, trying to train out of addiction. So I named it Endurance Race of Life and Addiction. And we both went through that journey at the same time. He then got saved, and I completed my race. And so God really was working during that time. So.
What a powerful testimony. Thank you, Lisa. You'll have to get us the name of your book too, so we can check it out. And I will say, you know, we totally get the hustle and bustle of being professionals, and at the same time, you know, trying to be lifelong learners. And I will say I was also a collegiate runner, and I ran a half marathon once, and I said never again. And so I for most of my life after running collegiately.
Yeah, well, I made it 8 miles. I'm on the goal to either doing a half again, or maybe a marathon if my legs hold up.
I love it.
Actually,
Well,
my whole body, but we'll see.
I feel that. But thank you, Lisa. Jody, I see you on our screen next.
Okay. My name is Jody Lyon. I live in the same community as Phyllis and John, so glad to meet you guys virtually. I have, my husband and I had a manufacturing company that we sold about 5 or 6 years ago. So since then, I've been doing lots of different types of volunteering, but have always had an interest for helping others with learning how to budget and handle their finances. Our daughter, who's now 22, has had a little sister who also has 2 little sisters for 3 years now. And she and I have often talked about how she, meaning my daughter, has understood finances so well growing up in our household, but how her little sisters don't have that same information and knowledge. And so when I got the email from our church saying that they were getting involved with this Faith and Finances program, I was super excited to become involved with that. I can't say that I know much about Chalmers, but I'm excited to learn about it. I think too, it's a way for us to serve and help share our gifts while doing it with a faith, an understanding of, you know, the gospel and sharing our faith at the same time. We've long been involved with a water ski team in our community. So we serve youth from 13 to 18 and help the kids with water skiing all day, 1 day a week, plus a camp in the summer. But then interleaved with that is time of fellowship and Bible study. And it's a beautiful program. And so anyways, sharing my love of water skiing and the gospel at the same time is awesome. So anyways, I'm super excited to be part of this program.
Beautiful. Well, thank you, Jody. I'm glad, yeah, you know, you have Phyllis and John there too as you guys build your team. But I think what a great, to me, really cool. I never would imagine necessarily water skiing and gospel together, but for you to marry the two of them, I think it's so awesome.
Yeah, it's funny. We lived on a boat for many years, and there was a gentleman in our marina that had this really nice ski boat, and he would tell us how he's taking all these kids out in his personal boat for the day and teaching them ski. And we're like, you're using your personal, because we grew up on water ski teams, but we're like, you're using your personal boat and letting all these teenagers in and out of it, and we know how rough kids are, and it's like, you're crazy. And sure enough, 10 years later, here we are, part of the same organization that he founded 20 years ago. So anyways.
So
super
Jody, just
fun.
to put in, John and I were part of that original team.
With,
and
okay, with Herb.
we've long since left the team after our
Yeah.
girls were through.
Yeah, we were part of that team for about 10 years, and then, but you started after we were retired from that, so.
Okay, yeah, I
Our
think
backgrounds are similar.
that's so funny. Yeah, so we got involved in about 2010, but Herb was in the same marina as us, and we just thought, you're just crazy what you're doing, but it's been an awesome thing. An awesome thing.
Jody, now you're just as crazy, right?
Right, exactly.
I love
Exactly.
it. Well, thank you for sharing that. How wonderful.
Yeah.
Catherine, I see you here on our screen next.
Hey, my name is Catherine Briggs, and I'm also in Georgia. I'm in Lookout Mountain, Georgia, so right over, like, Chattanooga is right down the street. But I have a husband and 3 kids. My husband is Michael Briggs, and he works at the Chalmers Center. And he keeps saying, oh, these are some of my favorite people in the world that you're getting to learn from and be with. And so I have just been so excited to get more involved as my schedule has allowed. And I mentioned Friday, finishing up homeschooling and sending people to school. We feel like the Lord picked a funny year to do that with COVID, but it's going really well so far. And I'm really enjoying the time and space mentally and spiritually. And so I mentioned volunteering with a refugee ministry here in Chattanooga called Nations. And when I was working through the first unit of Faith and Finances, I kind of hit a wall when it was asking for my team and, you know, my plan and my vision. And I thought, I have no idea. But I sent an email to one of the volunteer coordinators at Nations that I've been working with as I just tutor one-on-one, teach English, and told her about Faith and Finances, and I need to work on my elevator speech, but, you know, just told her what I was hoping to learn, and asked her if she thought that there would be an opportunity for Nations to benefit from the neighbors, you know, all the friends that at this refugee ministry. And she wrote back and was very encouraging and said, yes, there is a group that can speak English well enough to do something like this, and they are eager to learn anything. And so that really encouraged me. And I feel like I'm always asking the Holy Spirit where it's moving and working, and I just want to join in and not just do my own thing. And I really see the Spirit moving among this ministry, and, you know, already having volunteers of whom I'm one, and then having participants who are eager to learn. And at my church, there is I think a desire to get more engaged, but we lack participants for like a Faith and Finances. At this point, we don't have the relationships since we are an affluent church, and not really connecting super well yet. But I'd love to see that also come down the road. But I feel like this partnership with Nations might be a really great first experience for me as a facilitator. And certainly it's where my heart has been, you know, in ministry. So also really appreciate y'all sharing from your hearts and just telling about yourselves. Our 3 kids are 2 boys and a girl, and the oldest boy's 17, and he's just quite honestly just kind of one day at a time and 1 week at a time sober. So we're just beginning that journey, and you know, it's daunting to look too far down the road, but we're just happy and praying for him one day at a time that he's okay today. But he is struggling.
Catherine, can I just say this? If you ever need to chat, you guys have my number. Michael's got my number.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I really
And
appreciate it, Marcia.
one
And
day,
Catherine,
one moment at a
I'm
time.
right down the mountain from you, so.
I know.
Yeah,
I'm so happy to meet you, Lisa.
same to you. So if you need me for anything, I've had 2 17-year-olds. Don't want it again, but
Yeah. I need friends that have gone before me for sure.
well, just contact me. I'm happy to get with you.
Thanks.
And I was once that 17-year-old, so
Right.
I can be there for you
Yeah.
if you want.
Yeah.
Only if you want.
Yes, I do. I do.
Well, you guys fill my heart with joy. I know testimonies and our lives aren't, necessarily perfect. I think we're, like Catherine said, one day at a time, and I think we hold on to a promise of God of hope, right? That the kingdom of heaven is near, and at the same time we will experience shalom. And I think one of the things that we learn in Chalmers that I appreciated from the beginning of my time of Chalmers is people experience brokenness, in the world with God in various different ways, with God, with themselves, with God's creation, and with others. And I think without understanding those underlying principles, especially in our communities, right? How are we to go there then, right, and support them? And so I think the power that you guys have already built in community and 32 minutes, if that, makes my heart really happy. So thanks for being vulnerable, guys. Thanks for being open. And I look forward to walking with you guys in this. So I think I will note that Susan Wesley is our final person in our course. So she cannot be here today. Her and her husband were traveling, and she was hoping to join, but she wasn't going to be able to join after all. So I think she'll be with us next week, and we're recording this call to make sure to get this to her. But I thought I'd ask our group, any outstanding questions so far with the course? And I'm sorry if you guys hear my dogs. I let them out, and now they're barking at squirrels that are digging under our fence. And so here we are. Any outstanding questions so far, guys?
I have a question. For one, because I think I signed up late, I may have missed something, but I don't know where we're supposed to be in our study. And I haven't, to be honest, I haven't gone online. Everything kind of came quick, and I was working with Amy and trying to get links and all that. So I'm not sure what I'm supposed to be doing first.
Good question. So do you have access to the course shell online, Lisa?
Probably.
Do you know how to get there? So here, I'm gonna.
It may be on an email she sent. Maybe I missed because I was looking for this meeting. I did watch the meeting, and we had some problems with that y'all had that I didn't attend.
So if I'm gonna send you a link. Just send the course. Let's see, and then you should be able to find the Faith and Finances course and simply log in.
And it goes by week. Is that how it's
Yeah, we have week by week duties to accomplish.
I think I went on. I think then I watched something else. Okay, I'll look into that. I just don't want to get behind.
Yeah, everything we're doing is completed on a week-to-week basis. So we just completed week 1.
Okay.
See, most everyone has completed that. So good job so far. And Lisa, I'm sorry that wasn't that that didn't get to you, but we'll make sure to help you catch up here. And the first week, I won't speak for everyone, but I don't feel like it's too heavy in terms of content. So, listen to a prayer, watch a video, and then read a couple handouts to get you acquainted with faith and finances language. At the same time, what it is to build a core team, and then what is our path to starting and pulling off faith and finances. So if you click on the courses.chalmers.org link that I sent you, you should be able to pull up the faith and finances course on the catalog. And then it should ask you for a login. And your login will simply be the email you registered with and whichever password you created. So if you want to try figuring that out while we're on the call here, just so we make sure you have access. But I guess maybe while Lisa is trying that, any other questions, guys?
I'm thinking my question will probably be answered eventually, but the thing that weighs on me is how to do this in a COVID world. But I'm seeking those answers. I think there's a course tomorrow.
So go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
So I'll just mention from my experience, right, being an instructor at a university at the same time running courses in low to moderate income population communities.
Mm-hmm.
Our center exists, right, to pursue shalom in our communities. And our programs, we have entrepreneurship, social entrepreneurship, we have ministry certificates for Spanish-speaking leaders. Like a lot of this has shifted to an online world because of COVID. It's not what we anticipated, when we were investing in training leadership and programs. But I will always go back to the strength of any program, especially in LMI communities, is the ability to build community. It's the content is great. We have some of the best training curriculums, on faith and finances and co-starters for entrepreneurship that we use at our center. But it's always been dependent on community. So we've had to get really creative of, hey, we can't all 15 of us hang out in a room and we're not necessarily going to meet one-on-one, but what are we doing? And so our strategies have really been more one-on-one time, more open communication. I think we've had to be really intentional with communication in a COVID world, but I think your question was more around a post-COVID world. Like, what is the world going to look like post-COVID and facilitation? And honestly, I don't even know what kind of world we're going to return to in a year, maybe 2 years. I think our environment is very much disrupted, and I don't think a lot of that has settled. But I don't know, Marcia, or anyone else, would you guys add to that?
Yeah, I think as you go through the course, you're going to learn more, and we'll be able to share how we do this in our own community. And I think we have some facilitators, or some of our trainers right now are doing online faith and finances. And some have just said that, I remember in one of our calls, I haven't done it yet. And one of our trainers was saying that they got the first group, they got everybody together in the park when parks start, you could start getting out again, just to meet each other and have that face-to-face, but then had to really adapt the curriculum to COVID. So our training for you is to be able to do this post-COVID, back in your churches, your communities, all of that. But we're gonna be sharing with you as we go, and things that we're learning, and just how we can really bring this together, that will just be beneficial for everybody. I think, yeah.
And I think as we go through the course together, more stuff will pop out as how to navigate this. We do have one course here in rural Fresno that's running virtually. So they're really figuring it out, and they're an affluent church working with a local food pantry, and so you know, they partner with the food pantry. They do it around dinner time. And so I think meals are distributed, but at the same time, they actually DoorDash dinner to each of their participants because it's in their budget. That way they all share a meal for the first 20 minutes of the class. For our courses, you know, when they're in person, we recommend breaking bread together. Some of the best conversations happen over food. And I think in the same way they've tried to replicate that, and it's been very successful. They're like on week 6 at this point, or week 7. I'll have to check in with them. But you can get creative with operating if you're going to do Zoom online. We have another course that actually did try starting in person, but I think people were too nervous to actually, you know, they said they were interested to meet in person. They were going to do it outdoors. They were going to sanitize, PPE, precautions that we felt, you know, okay to give them a thumbs up. But at the end, most of the participants ended up pulling out last minute. So that's some of the best practices I'd share right now. But I think, you know, we'll keep learning through this process. Good. Oh, I see Eunice hopped on. Hi, Eunice. Can you hear me okay?
Yes. Hi.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, I'm actually like I'm a teacher, so I'm like currently working on lesson plans, and I just got out of a meeting, so I'll probably only stay for about 10 minutes and then I have to go, unfortunately.
Okay.
But next week I should be able to join for the whole session.
Okay. And if we need to figure out scheduling, Eunice, like definitely let me know. And we have recorded this call, so I'll make sure everyone gets the link. But I guess before we continue questions, do you maybe want to tell us a little bit about yourself? And I think next week, you know, you'll get to learn a little bit more about us as we continue to build community here.
Yes, sure. So I am a recent transplant to California. I actually from Georgia. So going from one coast to the other, there's a whole backstory to that, but I'm in my 16th year of teaching. This is my, I taught middle school for 6 years, 8th grade, and then I'm back in high school teaching algebra and geometry. And yeah, so partially I moved out here because I met someone online, and so we're in the same city now, getting to date. We've been dating for a year in the same city. And why I'm taking this class is because our church is doing this ministry in the Fillmore, which I'm in San Francisco. So Fillmore has been referred to as the Harlem of the West, and there's obviously a lot of programs and co-ops that are in the area. I think our church is feeling called to job training and especially the 25 plus age group. So we have this, like, currently we're in a food truck phase. It's going into the food industry. But we have like this 10-week training program. And then after that, they'll be doing internship, but we want to maybe do a class like this that will continue in like professional development for the participants. So yeah, and like allies, part of it really resonates with me as far as work-life curriculum goes. So that's a little bit, I don't know if I said too much, but.
That's great.
Okay.
Really not enough, because we look forward to knowing more about you, Eunice. Do you fans know Andy Kim out in Fillmore?
Yes, he's a pastor.
Yeah, so I know Andy. I've talked to him just on his work with social entrepreneurship and food trucks. We run a very large social enterprise accelerator and program here in our city. I'm down in Fresno. So
Okay.
we're not too far from you guys.
Gotcha. Yeah, he's our lead pastor in our ministry. Okay. Yeah.
Cool. You said Fillmore. I was like, Andy. I remember Andy. So he mentioned food truck that this was maybe like 2 years ago when they were cooking this up.
I think I've only been here for a year, so like I'm kind of just getting into it with them.
Very cool.
Eunice, what church do you go to?
The name of the church is Radiance Christian Church.
I love it. Well, actually, we have a couple folks from Georgia. So when you said you moved from Georgia to California, I think half of where Phyllis and John and Lisa and Catherine, right? And Jody, you're in Georgia too? No, I'm sorry.
Wisconsin. With
Wisconsin.
Phyllis and John. Yep.
No. Oh, that's right. It's Catherine and Lisa that are in Georgia. I'm sorry.
Great.
We
Well,
lived out in San Francisco 20 years ago.
Oh, cool. Where are you guys in Atlanta? Which part? I mean, which part of Georgia?
Lookout Mountain,
Okay.
Chattanooga.
Okay.
And I'm just up at the corner of Georgia and Tennessee, a small town just below Chattanooga.
Okay.
Lafayette.
awesome. Well, hey, Lisa, were you able to access your course okay?
I did, and had to reset passwords, and I got that all done while we were here, so I think
Yay.
I'm good to go.
Okay, cool. All right, guys. Well, I'd say other questions?
A question regarding those that have had success with the program. Do you use this as an evangelical tool, or do you have more success with those who have come to faith and then want to grow and work on their financial aspect of their lives? How does that typically play out?
Marcia, do you want to go first? Or
Yeah, ours in our church, you know, we have a public housing less than a quarter mile down the street, and we're hoping that some of our community partners, because we with poverty, our folks in poverty and in the margins and all, and thought that was going to, faith and finance would be a great fit for that. So we have had people come from the community. I have a room set up at our church. I'm lucky to have that space that I keep our 12 weeks going. And so they come from our community, and some are believers, some are not. And then we have those within the church that are more low to mid income folks that come in, and they want to learn too. They've just never learned how to manage their money. So like I said, some are believers, some are not. And it's so amazing really in that process of what starts to happen and transformation that starts to take place, and people coming to Christ in the midst of it. Does that help? Does that help you?
Yes, very much so. Thank you.
And I'd share, you know, we have about 35 churches in our network here that use faith and finances in different capacities. Some of them use it partnered with our food pantry. Some of them use it with homeless outreach. Some of them use it in their youth programs or college age programs. And really, like, one of the things I love about faith and finances is how gospel centric it is. Right. I think I have found that sticking to the script and you know, obviously not word for word, but as you get more comfortable with the curriculum, definitely use your word set. There necessarily doesn't have to be a lot of, you know, come to Jesus moments, because they're kind of created in the curriculum. I have a collection of stories of different courses, you know, say, you know, this person gave their life to Christ, or this person found healing simply by just engaging in the course. And I think a lot of what faith and finances gets to the core to, and we'll learn about this in week 2, is Jesus making all things new, right? Including, you know, our relationships and money. And I think in that, as you heard me mention earlier, people in a way are exploring their brokenness, right? Not, I mean, you might have tears in some courses, right? But exploring the brokenness of why they spend and manage their finances the way that they do. And some people have never thought about it that way. And until you get to the root cause of a problem of why they spend the money the way that they do, you know, you can try to build new habits, but, you know, things will always come back to the way things were always have been done, because people have managed their finances a certain way for 10, 20, 30 years. And so I think what I would say to that, you know, evangelizing question is, Chalmers in a way already creates those moments in the course, just because of how gospel centric it is.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a good question though.
Thank you.
Other questions, guys?
I would like to say this, something I always start with. I always tell our folks, this is not a Bible study or a prayer group. We're going to really learn about how God has called us to use our money to accomplish his work in the world. So if you guys are here for Bible study, not going to happen, you know. And so it's so cool how scripture and stories from the Bible are intertwined throughout the whole process. And one class, one unit leads to the next. So it's that, and I always see such a transformation in people. By week 3, there's this aha moment. You get to goal setting, and there's the deer in the headlight moment, you know? So yeah, it's Chalmers has done an incredible job of creating this for us, that it is just like Carlos said, to be able to follow it and just let it all work itself out and trust the process in it. And there are, I am telling you, I have had people in my very first class break down. It's amazing to see when people really realize their brokenness. And that's why, and we'll talk about this more too, of creating a very safe place for people to know that what is shared in that room stays in that room, and that you are all there for one another. So just wanted to share that.
Absolutely. Other questions, guys?
Will we have access to each other's emails, contacts, anything like that?
Well, I think what I'll do is I'll send an email to everyone asking for your consent. I think normally I don't send each other's contact information, but if some of you guys want to opt in to sharing contact information, I'm happy to share that with you guys. But yeah, absolutely, we can make that happen.
Carlos, I just wanted to mention that I already found that Chalmers has answered my question partially, and I posted in the chat a link to a free webinar that Chalmers is doing on connecting with people during this time of COVID. So if anyone's interested, it's in the chat.
How much did Geraldine pay you for that ad, Patty?
You know what? This one's
That was
free.
good.
They get more expensive later.
I love it. That's great. You know, and I think Chalmers has really done a good job of their research. As you can tell, I don't know if they advertise themselves as a research institution, but they do really good at publishing curriculum and different, I'd say, support resources for curriculum. I think their care for andragogy and pedagogy in the classroom it shows. And I think that's a great resource. So thanks for sharing that, Patty. Question for you guys is, what did you guys think about the video this week that you guys watched? Did anything stand out? Did anything seem off?
I thought they did a great job of communicating that it's a long walk. It's a journey. It is not a quick fix. And it's about relationships over time to see transformation. And it's not easy.
I think that's a great takeaway. I think was it our webinar last week or 2 weeks ago, Marcia? I think someone brought up a question of like, how long do you continue relationships with people? And I think one, like as an institution, as a university ourselves, like we don't want to quote unquote enable relationships with the university, but with their lead trainers in their communities, right? I think that when those relationships are built for the long term, that's when you see big breakthroughs. And you see generational shackles being shed. You see these constraints being broken. And so that's a great takeaway. Or any other thoughts about this week's lesson in week 1? I hope you guys know, as an instructor, I don't mind the awkward silence, but I also won't drag on Q&A too long if there isn't any questions. But if no other questions or comments for week 1, then maybe we can talk a little bit about week 2 before we break our time. I'm noting time, and I want to respect your guys' time to make sure we get you guys out of here at 10. Any other comments or questions, guys, for week 1? No. Okay. So I am pulling up our course shell here. One of the things that I note is that towards the end of the week, in week 2 or of the lesson, it's actually asking us to fast and pray together. All right. Traditionally, this is something that's done as church-specific groups, but because we're walking this together, I'd love to do this together. And so, again, this is nothing that's going to be forced on you either. There's a great guide in there for fasting and prayer, and I think the one thing I would recommend is maybe us choosing a meal this week on a specific day, and simply fasting through that meal and using that time to intentionally pray, reflect, at the same time, be strategic with that time. I think it's not a time to necessarily think of how hungry you are, but I think it's a time to remember, how much we rely on God in the process. And so what I'll do is I'll send Marcia is a follow-up email, or maybe I'll throw up a Google Doc. Have you guys all had experience working with the Google Docs and running form? And maybe we can add stuff to that list that we can be praying for intentionally. And this would include, our own families and our neighborhoods, our communities, but at the same time, our church and our plans for faith and finances in our community, and anything else that weighs on your heart. I think collectively doing this as a community will be very powerful. And I don't know, does anybody want it? My first thought is let's do Friday on this week for lunch, but I don't know if some of you guys have lunch plans, but I think that's just enough time to maybe think this through. At the same time, prepare for something like that. So make sure you're drinking plenty of water as we're leading up to this. But does anybody oppose a Friday fasting during lunch? No. And so if not, then I think that's what I'll note here, and I'll send that in an email, and then we'll start working on that doc. But if you have never fasted before, I definitely recommend pulling up the resource on the fast and pray section in week 2. I think it's an absolutely great resource to use in preparation for this. The other thing that we're gonna start discussing is the 2 key themes of the Faith and Finances curriculum. I think 1, Jesus making all things new, including our money and relationships. And 2, God has chosen to use our money to accomplish his work in the world. And I think using those 2 key themes going forward, I think really reflecting on those as we're going through our time in fast and prayer is going to be important. But I'll throw those up in our document. But as we get prepared for week 2, guys, other questions that you may have?
My only question is I was trying to respond, just put my thoughts in response to one of the questions, and I type it in there, and I can't remember what the prompts were, but I'd click post or continue or whatever it was, and it never seemed to take. I don't know if anybody else had challenges with that. No.
I will not, let me see. Do you maybe remember which section you did that on, Jody? Or
Let me see if I can figure it out. I think it was a question in regard to financial success.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So maybe question number 1.
I know which question you're talking about. Yeah, I know sometimes like it's a little tricky because a little sidebar comes up from the side, and then it asks you to comment. It doesn't always populate effectively. The one thing I always tell folks is if you're having trouble with the path right platform is use Google Chrome instead of, I don't know if some of you guys use Safari, But in my last course, Safari was giving everyone problems. I'm not a tech guy either, guys, so don't take my word for it. But it was just as soon as I, switched people over to Chrome, those problems went away.
I actually was on Chrome. So
It was on Chrome.
it was on Chrome. So maybe I'll try something else, Firefox
So
or.
maybe try. See, now I feel terrible because I gave
Well,
everyone.
no, that's fine.
But I think, yeah, try the comment section again. And if not, Jody, you can give troubleshoot and see if we can figure that out. Because, under certain sections, you have a discuss section, right? And you should be able to post comments and comment on each other. Like I see Catherine and Patty, on this first post engaging, and I think that's great. And I've seen some of you guys also comment. But yeah, I want to make sure that you're able to comment because I think that's going to be a big part of this course. So apologies, that's been a little tricky there. Other questions, guys? I know we've reached our midnight hour here. All right, folks. So Jody, maybe I'll send you an email separately from here and see if maybe we can figure that out to make sure that you get that all sorted.
Okay, thank you.
Guys, if you guys don't mind, I'll pray us to a close and we'll get on with our Monday here. So let's pray. Heavenly Father, Lord and Master, thank you for this Monday. Thank you for the breath in our lungs. Thank you for the calling that you have on each and every one of our lives, Lord, as we look to engage with faith and finances and what it is that you're calling us to and to serve our communities, Lord. Whatever it may be, I pray that it be holy, blessed, and it bring a smile to your face, Lord, knowing that we're trying to bring shalom to our communities, Lord, as you intended things to be in people, for people, and in between people. So use us mightily and continue to trust you in everything that you call us to, Lord. So be with us as we get on with our Monday. I pray our days and our weeks are productive. I pray they are life-giving. And ultimately, I'm just thankful for the capacity that you give each and every one of us to do what we do, God. So be with us and know we love you so much, God. We love you. Amen. All right, friends. We'll go in
Thank
peace.
you.
Have a great week, and we'll.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.